All right, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming out. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Wendell Nielsen. I teach with the online program, Los Angeles Film School. And I am very pleased to talk about the film we're going to show today, Spun, and its writer, Will De Los Santos, who is here with us, and whose directorial debut, Transloco, is slated to start production this fall. We'll discuss that film when we bring Will out here after the screening, so that should be great. All right, just a quick introduction for the film here, and hopefully you'll find this useful. I used to teach a class called Cult Film and Culture at Utah Valley University, and this was one of the last films I showed the class of mostly 18 and 19-year-old students. Invariably, it brought about the best discussions in the class. Some people loved it, and some hated it, but no one was indifferent to it, which, to me, is the mark of truly important art. From the beginning, the film was somewhat controversial. All of the best art is. It was accused as an example of style over substance, but I think that's part of the point. As Roger Ebert wrote, quote, "Spun is a movie about going around and around and around on speed. It is a demented merry-go-round." Since its release, Spun has spawned a huge cult audience. It could almost be a film about Hollywood youth gone wrong. And Spun is a black comedy, something particularly difficult to successfully pull off. It has to tread the line between humor and dark subject matter. In this film, we as an audience are asked to feel sorry for and even like some pretty reprehensible people. For me and other fans of the film, Spun succeeds in getting us to separate the characters from their deeds. Ross, the Jason Schwartzman character in the film, has no concept of who he is or the effects that he has on anyone else. The film doesn't condemn him as much as it just shakes its head at his insane behavior. The cook, played by Mickey Rourke, is a lost soul, this funny, sad cowboy hunkered over his new product for the masses. He's America's greatest enemy dressed in the outfit of its greatest heroes. Spun shows us a world where beauty no longer exists, in spite of the fact that everyone in this film is completely self-absorbed. The world here is self-contained as well, with no connection to any outside influences. Even the cops are tainted and just another part of this ugly place. Ross never comes to terms with himself or the damage he's done. Not to give it away, but he leaves the stripper April in an unfortunate position multiple times. An act that shows him to be just as base as all the other characters in the film, maybe even more so. But what's sad is that Ross is not really wicked at all. He's just confused and thoughtless. Unlike many drug culture films, I think it's very difficult to see this as glamorizing illegal drugs. The characters aren't like Jared Leto and Jennifer Connelly in Requiem for a Dream, or Johnny Depp and Penelope Cruz in Blow. These characters are all paranoid, depressed, and filthy from the start of the film. This is a very smart film full of commentary about consumerist culture and American ideals. It takes a star of American beauty and turns her into a disgusting fiend with brown teeth. It shows us how speed and pornography are as American as baseball and apple pie. The cook obsesses about women. He gives a speech that echoes the opening speech by George C. Scott in Patton, as well as a famous John F. Kennedy speech, "Ask not what your country can do for you." But this speech is about the values of pornography in America. It is a biting satire of the American dream. This is a dream of mounting paranoia and instant gratification, which seems to mirror the dominant culture in America today more and more. Although the film does seem somewhat condescending to its characters, it still has a heart and even a love of these wayward beings. Spun demonizes the drug, but it still feels pity for the drug's victims. Ross is quietly naive, but under the influence, shockingly, even if unintentionally, sadistic. Quick word about the editing. With over 5,000 cuts, Spun still holds the record. It has a fittingly frantic element to it. Some have compared it to the editing in Requiem for a Dream, but I do think there is a difference. Unlike in Requiem, the way it's used here has less to do with the plot and getting into the characters' heads than with amplifying the sensory damage and reality spin that crystal meth can cause. It's showing us the manic mindset of the meth addict. The animation shows us the drug-ridden thoughts of the characters. It's an intense pornographic hallucination that shows us to be not much more than masturbating monkeys. There is a great color scheme here as well. It's dull and washed out with a light green tinge, like there's a layer of grime over everything. The film does slow down at a point. There's a sequence near the end with Ross and Nikki in the car that does something really fabulous. I think it manages to build suspense without anything really happening. It's pretty tricky. It is here that this film becomes both tender and moving. Unlike most so-called low culture films, there is hope here. We get the sense that Nikki's time with Ross has inspired her to attempt to change her life. Whether she can or will succeed is finally left to us to decide. Just as a warning, the film does contain graphic materials. Buckle your seatbelts. It's my pleasure to introduce Spun. Thanks for coming, Will. Let's see. I guess I'll start off. When did you decide to become a filmmaker?
I wanted to be a filmmaker when I was about 6 years old, and I made my first little home movie. My mom and dad had a little 8mm camera, and so I just shot it, and it was called Smog. So it was like somebody smoking a cigarette, and then like the tailpipe of our car, and then my dad drove me out to the LA airport, or the Ontario airport at the time, and just shot some, smoggy things. It was literally about 45 seconds long. Then I wanted to be a documentary filmmaker, and but then life got in the way, and I was a big athlete, believe it or not, in high school and college.
Basketball.
I played basketball, right? Yeah, and I was pretty much a nerd, and just into basketball and baseball. And then I got older. I wanted to be a rock star and play music, so I started learning how to play stringed instruments. Then I got involved came back to wanting to be a documentary filmmaker, and that's kind of how Spun came about.
Right on. Oh, and take it from there, if you would. Tell us how this film got made.
Well, it was kind of a miracle in a way. I mean, I was very persistent. I was on drugs the whole time. So I'll just preface that with the fact that I don't recommend being on drugs to make a film. It's probably, because I tried to make another movie after Spun on drugs, and that just wasn't happening. So it was kind of like the stars aligned for it to be made. And I also say I'm almost 5 years sober now. So, but in my careers come back, tenfold. So I'm pretty blessed for that. We'll talk more about that later, probably. But awesome. How it got made was I was living in Oregon, and I was making a documentary film about meth cooks, and that was the idea. And then while I was doing that, I had 3 days where I was actually driving a meth cook around, and it got so wild, my actual life during those 3 days, that I decided, this actually would make a better real movie than a documentary. So I started writing a screenplay based on what was really happening to me at the time. And I didn't have a computer, so I had my friend Creighton Vero had a computer, and he ended up getting a screenwriting credit. So I basically wrote the most of the script on his computer, and So anyway, and then I ended up coming down to LA. I was with this girl, my girlfriend at the time. Her name was Sunday, and she didn't want to come down with me to LA to make the movie. I hadn't even finished really writing the whole entire script. So I just kind of came down here with a partial script. She and I broke up. I ended up having a yard sale and taking all that money from that yard sale and just getting on a Greyhound bus and coming down to LA. And I had a partial script. And so I came down here, but before I came down here, there was this thing going on at some convention center in Oregon called Miss Nude America, or Miss Nude Oregon. It was some contest. And the guest contestant judge was Ron Jeremy. And so I was like, Ron, I waited for Ron Jeremy to come outside. He came out, and I was like, Ron, here's my partial script. I'm making this movie. At the time, it was called The Cook. And I said, I really want you to be in this movie. And I gave him the script. And he was like, oh, awesome, I'm consulting this movie called Boogie Nights. And, if you ever come down to LA to make the movie, hit me up. And I was like, okay. So, several months went by, whatever. I ended up coming down to LA. I had this little bit of money. I stayed in this motel that's since been torn down on La Brea and Highland in Sunset, and kind of like it was. I don't even remember what it was called. So I checked in there, and I stayed there for about a week, and I just kind of went to Blockbuster video places in Hollywood video, and I just looked at movies that I liked. And I started taking the information off the back of the boxes, like the producers, whoever, And the name that kept popping up on these movies that I liked was Chris Hanley, and and Muse Productions. So I found out where their office was in the Yellow Pages, and it's Venice Beach. So I took a bus, and I went out there to Venice Beach, and went there, and magically the door was open. Now, this place is like a fortress. You can't get into this production company. The door just happened to be open that day. I walked in and walked upstairs, and they're like, hey, how did you get in here? Who are you? What do you want? I go, hey, man, I have this script, and I'm making this movie. I really want you guys to help me make it. And they're like, oh, get out of here. Basically, they were just kind of freaked out that I wasn't even in there. And so I gave them the script, and I said, yeah, I have, I started just kind of making up names. I just said, I had Mickey Rourke in this movie. And I didn't have Mickey Rourke, but it ended up getting Mickey Rourke. It's pretty wild. And I said, I have all these people in the movie, and I'm going to make this movie. And they were like, okay, just leave it and get out of here. So I left it, and I just called them every fucking day for months. Finally, they're just like, hey, Chris read it, and he really likes it. So why don't you come down here? So that's kind of how it got going.
Persistence.
Yeah, and I'll take it a bit further. Is that how we got Jonas to direct it? I really wanted to direct the movie, but looking back now, there's no way. I could barely keep time, but because I was on drugs. But I was, I stalked Mickey Rourke, and I ended up getting, one day he was like, you get the money, I'll do the fucking movie, just leave me the fuck alone. I was like, all right. And then I had seen the music video "Smack My Bitch Up" and by The Prodigy, and I was like, whoever shot this music video, I got to get to edit my movie, and shoot it. So I started stalking Jonas Åkerlund, and who had not made a movie, but he'd done a lot of great music videos. He'd won the MTV Music Award for Madonna videos and a bunch of other stuff. So I finally got, I was like, just stalked the hell out of him, got his phone number in Sweden, and I ended up calling his house in Sweden, and he was like, oh, who is this? How do you get to my number, And I was just like, hey, man, I'm doing this movie. I want you to direct the camera, and I'll direct the actors. And he was like, just hang up on me. Finally, I just, kept, I went after his manager, this guy named Billy Preveda at the time at the oil factory who handled music video directors. Bothered the hell out of them, kept bothering Jonas, called his office, called his house. Finally, he's like, okay, I get this phone call. And then I moved. I was living in this motel on Hollywood Boulevard, just this side of Western. And didn't have a phone, and I had a payphone in the hallway, and I used that as my number I'd give out to people. And then one day it rang, and I answered it, and he was like, "Hello, is Will Santos there?" I was like, "Yeah." This is me. What's up? It was Jonas, and Jonas was like, I read the script, I really like it, and I'll direct it only if I direct it, not you and I. And I was like, oh man. And he goes, but if you let me direct it, I'll bring John Leguizamo and Mina Suvari and Billy Corgan to do the music. And I was like, let me think about it, So I called Chris Hanley. I was like, Chris, I got Jonas says he'll do the movie. And should I do it? And I go, yeah, you should do it. First, Chris was like, you don't have Jonas calling you. Because at the time, Paramount was offering Jonas movie to do. A lot of studios were trying to get Jonas to do a movie at the time. And for way bigger budgets. And he's like, you didn't even have Jonas. So I'm like, yeah. Anyway, I finally convinced him it was Jonas. And finally I let Jonas direct the movie. And that's how that happened.
Awesome.
For the movie to be made, to answer the question in broad ways, it was just a lot of, a lot of serendipitous things had to happen all within like the course of like 6 months, you know, for it to really happen. I mean, people spend lifetimes not making a movie, so I was pretty fortunate in a lot of the ways. But a lot of it also was the fact that I was just very persistent and very, you know, you just never sell anything you would never hope to buy. I knew the script was interesting and fun and,
Nice.
and powerful, and that there was nothing else really kind of like it. So I felt that, you know, when I'm going out there saying like, "Hey, man, you got to do this movie," it wasn't because I thought I wanted to be a screenwriter. It was because I thought the movie would actually be fun.
Did you know that right away with the script, or was
Yeah, I
it?
did. As soon as the thing was, I knew there was a beginning, middle, and the end of the story, like before it even it started to be written. And so I knew that that it was something that was different, and you know, so it wasn't hard for me to try to sell it.
Awesome. Okay, a couple of questions about screenwriting. How do you go about getting feedback that I know some of our students are interested in?
You know, I don't really send the script out to too terribly many people. I only give it when I write something. Like I just finished writing a script a couple weeks ago, a new one. And I just send it to people that I think that can help me get it made that I know. And I send it out to some actors. I send it out to my friends, a few of my friends, and ask for their feedback. You know, but really it's more like I get a little feedback. Occasionally I'll get a good note. And I'll think, I'll change that when the time comes. But I don't like changing. I really don't like touching the screenplays again. I tend to write screenplays that are longer. People say it's like a page a minute, but that's kind of bullshit. And just like, Spun was 154 pages, and I never changed it. So when people say you got to cut pages numbers down, it's not necessarily true. If it's good and people are reading it, then that's the main thing. There comes a time where if you have a bond on the movie, and then the bond company's not going to, you know, insure the movie unless the page count comes down, that kind of thing. I'm facing that issue now. But in general, it's you just want to get people attached to the movie that find it intriguing. So the page count doesn't really matter that much, in my opinion. That people think that's wrong, but whatever.
That's great. I agree. Let's see. So, what is your secret for not just with this film, but your upcoming film? For you seem to be able to get every star in Hollywood to want to be in your films.
Well, I mean, actors like to do movies that you know, have roles that are different. You know,
Absolutely.
I mean, there are, you know, usually two reasons why generally that an actor won't do the movie is because, you know, a name actor, whatever, is because the money, you know, or the fact that they'll do a role that they, you know, generally aren't being offered, and they'll do it for less money. You know, I think that's pretty much it. You create characters that they've never played before, or, you know, are they interested in playing, that they'd be more likely to do it for scale plus, you know, a lower amount than their usual fee.
Nice. Should I bring this up? How'd you get into a fight with Billy Corgan on set?
How did you hear about that? I mean, I don't know. Maybe it was in an interview before. Billy
research.
Corgan was. Jonas brought him involved. I mean, in my humble opinion, it's the worst part of the movie is when Billy Corgan's in the movie. But the score is awesome, you know, and he wrote all those songs before the movie was shot. For the movie, just kind of based on the script. We never had a soundtrack released, which I thought was always kind of nuts. But anyhow. I was on set that day. They tried to ban me from set a lot because I was like really in people's faces and shit. But they were like, I saw Billy come out of one of the trailers and he had like this lab coat on, and I was like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, I'm shooting a scene. I was like, what scene? You know? And he's like, talk to Jonas. I'm like, hey, fuck you, talk to me. What the fuck you talking about? You know? Ended up giving in a scuffle there. There's some photographs of it. It's pretty funny.
Yes. Yeah. Any other?
I got kicked off the set immediately after.
Any other great set stories from the film you want to share?
Yeah, there are, but I don't.
Okay. We don't have to
yeah.
All right. Let's see. How did you feel about the finished film, and how close was it to what you had imagined when you were writing it?
Well, it's a very dark movie. I mean, and it was written with that in mind, that it would be dark. And I mean, some of the campness wasn't in the script, like people saying, well, all that's gotta hurt. That was added. I mean, I didn't really like that. Like when Spider Mike shoots Frisbee, it was supposed to be like this moment where Spider Mike's like, holy shit, I shot somebody, and the guy's like laying there dead, you know, and not comical. So they made that, the campness was that was added by Jonas, which I didn't really like. But other than that, I mean, I always say that Spun is like when you see a VW, like a 60s VW going down the street, you're like, oh man, that's a classic, but it's not really great. That's how I think Spun is. Spun is like a classic, but it's not super great, you know. But I mean, but it is classic in a lot of aspects, and it has a lot of elements to it that you just don't see in other movies, like the constant jarring, the constant like hyperactivity, the unrelenting darkness of it, and so yeah, I mean, I'm super proud of the movie, yeah, for sure.
Awesome. How did you feel about the response it got when it came out?
Oh, 'cause that came out then when the internet was kind of just beginning, so there was like, I would get caught up on like some of the reviews and like try to hunt down the guy that wrote the review and call his office, like, dude, what the fuck you're saying? I mean, Film Comment wrote a story that said that I hadn't really written the movie and that I was created by Muse to help promote the movie, shit like that, I mean, but I thought the movie did really well. They made like $40 million in rentals like the first month. That's like a figure you can't find on the internet anymore because they just do graphs. They don't really show you how much money it did. I mean, like IMDb or Box Office Mojo really only shows you like the box office or whatever. Yeah. But this Spun came out, was released in the last days of rentals. So. And that doesn't really, show. But it did really well. It did a ton of movies, amount on sales of DVDs. Yeah. It did really well. And your question was what?
How did you feel about the response it got?
The response, I just think the response is that most people, they've seen it.
Yeah.
I mean, college kids see it still, and it's a drug culture movie. And I think the response, like you said when you introduced the movie, that it's a mixed, some people hate it, some people, love it, and, I guess if everyone loved it, then it would be like Moana or some shit, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. What did you learn throughout the process, and is there anything you wouldn't do again?
Yeah, I mean, I burned some bridges, by being, too aggressive. Like with an agent at ICM, I was super aggressive, and I was, not allowed to go to ICM for a long time. And like the guy that runs Untitled Entertainment, and I mean, I see those guys around town, and they still hug me and stuff, but they're not really taking meetings with me. Also, what I learned basically is that you can't really. There's no formula to get a movie made. I mean, there's kind of like the only formulaic thing is the script. You have to have a script. If you're a writer or to make a movie, you have to have a script. If you're a director, you still need a script. Every producer, they want to make a movie, they need a script. So that's the where it really kind of begins with, and then after that, it's like who else you attach, a named director or a talent, an actor or whatnot. But I guess what I'm still learning. I mean, now, I have several things going on, and I just kind of like reflect back on the things that I've done wrong. What I would do differently is not be on drugs and when you're trying to make a movie or in any capacity. And also I've learned that to take advice, but don't really weigh it. You can't really like someone says you have to do it this way. That's just not. Just follow your gut. If you feel you need to stand outside somewhere and meet somebody that's going to help you do it and be persistent, just look them in the eye and say, look, man, this is something that is different, and this is something that I believe is, can be done. You don't want to, oversell it, and you don't want to, like this is a blockbuster. Spun's never going to be a blockbuster. Never thought it would be, but I knew it would. It was something that would be different, and I guess that answered your question somewhat. Yeah.
You probably, I'm sure you've heard some of this before, but I had some particularly feminist students that were concerned about the portrayal of women in the film.
Yeah, true. But that shit happens, and also Also some of the like the Mexican American characters I wrote too. I mean, I have a new thing that I wrote that's based in the Latin community, and so I had, I kind of wrote those characters, not the way I really, had, I'm not super apologizing, but if Jonathan Fong's out there watching, I'm not apologizing. But that's kind of an inside thing. But I would say that, what can you do? I mean, what can I do? I mean, it's just the way it happened. I mean, it was a real story, I mean, the Jason Schwartzman character, that really was me. I drove meth coke around. I mean, there's a lot of that in the stories. In the movie, that's really the way it went down. The only things that I would say pretty much that weren't in real life that didn't happen is the cook didn't die in real life, in my life. The dog wasn't green. And that's kind of it. Everything else, I mean, I did, I was on drugs. I did tie a girl up for a few days. It was nuts, But, I mean, it was like I was on drugs, so that's the way it went down.
Yeah, I mean, you got Deborah Harry to be in it, who's a pretty outspoken
That was supposed to be
feminist.
Madonna. Madonna was actually going to do that.
Oh, nice.
Because Jonas had a relationship with her, but then the movie got pushed, and then Madonna couldn't do it because she was doing prepping for a concert, so she ended up not doing it. And we got Debbie Harry in like 2 days. It was like, and then she came on. So the interesting thing is once you get a movie going, and there's a lot of excitement around it, you'll find that people will start more likely to be involved if other people are in it, Yeah. And so we were fortunate for that.
Will the sequel and/or prequel to Spun ever get made?
Yeah, I believe that it can be made. I mean, it's more of a personal movie. There is a story for the prequel and sequel of Spun, and it's very possible. But the only way they would really probably get done is one of two ways. If the rights holders decided to make some cheesy-ass version of something, or they support me and let me go out and make the movie that it's supposed to be made. And I think that can really only happen is if I, make a gem or two out of the projects I'm working on now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's get on to that. I know from what I've read that you have a lot of irons in the fire.
Yes.
But we haven't heard from you in a little while. What have you been up to, and what are you working on now? I know there's a bunch of different things.
Yeah, well, I wrote this thing called Transloco, and we had that rolling. I thought we would be shooting it this spring, but as it turns out, we ended up having to push the movie due to financing issues. But have an amazing cast who have committed to the movie: Crispin Glover, Rosie Perez, Johnny Beauchamp, who's amazing. It's a great cast. I put together an ensemble. Asa Gonzalez, who's just in that new movie Baby Driver, and I met with all the cast, and the script is really something I'm super proud of, and we hopefully we'll be shooting here in the next few months if everything aligns, and but I also have another project that I wrote based on a novel called Wasting Talent, and I changed the script to Love in Vain, and have another amazing cast with that. I'm looking to shoot both of them back to back for fairly low budgets, and direct both of them. The one, if you know who Nick Stahl is, I have Nick Stahl attached to play the lead. It's his comeback movie. It's a really beautiful script based on this novel and by Ryan Leone, and that is super powerful redemption movie for drugs. And Transloco is more of a East LA story, based in and around the Latin community and the trans community, which it's super powerful and mind-blowing. So I can't wait for those things to be done.
Awesome.
To really raise the bar and a lot of
and you're going to direct that.
Yes.
And
yes.
Your directorial debut, pretty much, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So what'd you do to prepare to direct Transloco?
Get off drugs and be on time to meetings and be clear. It's a whole different set of things you need to be able to do. Have a team of people that you can listen to. I think directing is a big thing about listening, and also having choosing the people around you that are able to listen to you. And it's a team effort. And I guess the main thing was this, that I always wanted to direct movies. It was one of the main reasons why I got off drugs, is to live the life I really wanted to live. And you know, I can't say it enough. I mean, I'm learning. It's a learning thing, and every day I learn something else new about what I need to do to see it through. Also, there's another project that I'm working on that I just myself and a couple guys, we just got the life rights to Lenny Dykstra, the baseball player. If you guys know who Lenny Dykstra is, you can look him up. He's kind of a wild guy from the '80s, baseball player. And we're looking to do like a docu-series and a feature film based on Lenny's life called The House of Nails. That should be awesome. Hopefully that would be like the bigger studio type thing. But I won't be directing that most likely, but you know, adapt the novel into a screenplay. And then also I wrote another script, co-wrote a script with a guy named Rob Sheppier entitled Boy in Blue, about a gangbanger from East LA becomes a pitcher for the Dodgers. And it's a super awesome script, and it's like Rocky meets Straight Outta Compton. It's fucking heavy, and I hope to see that one get made too. That's more of like a studio thing. And so I have that. We have that all over town too. So those are the main things that I have going on. You know, I also have a bunch of other little ideas and things that I'm always constantly doing, including the life of Plato, the Greek philosopher. It's this big, huge, epic thing that I've been working on for years, putting that together. And you know, yeah.
I'm looking forward to all of those. One thing I wanted to mention about Transloco, it seems very timely, particularly considering what's going on with bathroom laws, etc., taking place. Does this movie have any messages either about or to the transgender community that you can talk about at this point?
Well, it's just basically like brotherhood, you know, acceptance, forgiveness. That's pretty much the themes of the movie. It's a little too soon to talk about that. But you know, I hopefully be unavoidable.
Yeah, I think it'd be great. All right, I got one more question, then I'm going to turn it over to you guys. Hopefully, you'll have some questions out here, or comments, whatever. Just finally, any advice, any other advice to aspiring screenwriters or filmmakers that you haven't? You've given a bunch already, but anything else that might help these students?
Yeah, just keep your eyes open for stories, ideas, thoughts, other people that you want to work with, you know, and originality is super important. You know, there's nothing wrong with making a better mousetrap. If you have an idea, it's already been done. Think of a new twist. If there's a type of way to shoot a movie that you've seen that you think is cool, there's nothing wrong with borrowing ideas. You know, don't be ashamed to take something from someone else and make it your own, and just be honest with everything that you're trying to do. And you know, I mean, I saw Ben Affleck. I wasn't a super fan of Ben Affleck, so I saw him win an Academy Award for Argo, and he stood up there and said, "Don't hold grudges," you know. And then I was like, no shit, because you know, I had huge grudges against a lot of fucking people in town. You know, I was like, oh, that guy's an asshole. He fucked me over. But the truth of it is that a lot of those people fucked me over because I was on drugs, you know, and I allowed them to fuck me over. You know, I would sell like a screenplay for $5,000 because I was so desperate for money. You know, and you know, so you know, don't hold grudges, because most of the time the people that you're angry at, you know, it's only just a reflection of who I was at that time anyway, and. So I would say, other than that, just take advice, but don't weigh it out, because there's no real way to go about any of it. Just surround yourself with good people that you care about what they say, and people that will listen to what you have to say and formulate a plan. You know, that's pretty much my best advice.
Awesome, great. All right, students, questions, please, or comments, anything? Yes.
Oh, the black metal was actually, that was Jonas. It was written in as heavy metal, but Jonas actually was a drummer for Satyricon. At one point, he was a drummer. He was their first drummer for the black metal, black metal band. He was a drummer for Satyricon, so he brought that in, and he also brought in all the Insane Clown Posse videos, the wrestling stuff. That's all Insane Clown Posse. Yeah.
All right, great. Yes.
Is there a way to read the shooting script for Spun?
You know, there used to be a place over here on Hollywood Boulevard that sold the script, but I think they moved and now they're just online. You can find the script online if you, the original script. There is a thing online where you can get the, like the transcribed script, which is basically based on the movie. But yeah, you have to do a little searching. There is the original copy of the script is out there. Yeah. But like I said, the only place I could find it before was on Hollywood Boulevard, where they're selling it for $20.
Yeah, if you look, you can find it. Recommend it. All right.
Coffee right into it.
No worries. Oh, there's a water there too.
Hi. Oh, yeah, I was just wondering, like, when you started out, like you said, you were on drugs and all that, and you're just kind of stalking people and so forth. And when you finally got a nibble, how are you able to get so many, significant stars to jump on, and then, of course, crewing up and getting your script supervisors and people that would work really hard when you probably didn't have a budget if you're living out of a motel at the time, and how that snowball get rolling for you?
Well, the producer Chris Hanley doesn't live in a motel. He's like, Chris is an affluent person, and yeah, he had made like American Psycho, Buffalo '66, The Virgin Suicides, Freeway, and he ended, since Spring Breakers. I mean, he's like probably the greatest independent film director or film producer. So that's who I targeted, and that's who I was able to get. We had so there was some seed money behind the movie right away, and how to get actors like that. Like I said, it pretty much was getting Jonas to want to direct the movie. It helped a lot because he was a very hot commodity at the time, and and then it was like once Jason Schwartzman came on, who auditioned for the role, who was pretty hot at himself at the time because he'd just done Rushmore. It kind of started to snowball from there. I think that like once Jason Schwartzman came on, the whole movie just kind of got made quickly. Yeah.
And also, did you have any filmmaking background outside of just writing your scripts?
Oh, no, none. When I first wanted to write the documentary ideas, and like when I was a little kid and made the Smog movie, those were different. When I was in my teens, I used to keep like a little journal of like movies, like as reviews, like 4 stars. I'd watch, a movie. I was like Roger Ebert wannabe kind of kid, but. It basically. What was your question?
Those American dream things.
Wait, what was the last part of the question again? I wandered.
I was just wondering, like, once you got someone interested, how everything else worked out. Because I'm kind of like going through, nothing with drugs or anything, but I kind of like what you're doing. I'm starting something out, and just getting people who will jump in. I mean, I'm getting local people, other students and things like that,
right,
that are really anxious. All my actors are really excited and so forth. But like, I was just wondering, like, a person who essentially is a no-name person, and you described yourself as kind of a fuck-up, for last better words, to just get all these people, it's like the total American dream. Just everybody just said, fine, we're just going to jump in, throw money in, and get,
well,
Class
this is
A
the thing,
actors.
okay? This is how you do it. Like, I was telling my friend here is Bo, he's trying to do a movie. He wanted some advice. And I was like, people go see a movie for like 3 reasons, basically. 1, who made it? Like what it's about. Like, no one's in it, no one made it, but it's about some kids wandering through the forest, like the Blair Witch Project, and it's totally different. And, it's low budget. People might go see that movie because what it's about, something totally different. Nobody made it, nobody was in it. That's one reason. Second reason, who made it? Tarantino, Oliver Stone, Spike Lee, any these big directors, they made it. Nobody's in it. It's about anything. People will still go see it. The main reason, and the third reason, is who's in it. Brad Pitt could be in the movie, and a no-name person made it, and it's about anything. People will go because Brad Pitt's in it. So the main reason why people go to the movies is who's in the movie. Some people go also by who made it, and some people occasionally will go by what it's about. And that's what Spun was kind of like, but we ended up getting some names. But so if you're a no-name person, you want to make a low-budget movie, find a casting director. Okay, that's good advice. Get a casting director. You can get a casting director for not too much money. You can get someone to work for $2,500, and you can get them going. $5 grand. Find a casting director. Give them that money, and say, make offers, you know? And then if you have an interesting script that's totally different and your casting director has some connections, that casting director will get that script into the talent's hands. And then you can get a commitment from an actor of some sort of name, whatever kind of name it may be. And then you have someone attached. And then you can go out to people and say, look, I got so-and-so attached to the movie. They really want to do it, you know? You make a soft offer to them. You don't say, like, this pay-or-play business is not even true anymore. You know, it's BS. You just get somebody that's interested in your script, and that's it. And then you can go out and find some money just based on who's attached to your script. So to answer your question, the best advice is to get a casting director. And it's not super, super expensive. I mean, they might tell you 10 grand, 20 grand, or whatever to start. But really, you can get one for $2,500, $5 grand if, you know, with promise to pay, you know, like 2% of the budget later or something like that.
And you don't have to say, oh, well, you're going to get paid blah, blah money, you know, to that actor or whatever, because...
You just say, yeah, I mean, you just say, yeah. I mean, it's kind of like this, you know, catch-22. You say you have the money. There's nothing wrong with telling some white lies in the business. You say, like, look, I got the money. We're going to make the movie. We're going to do it in December, and this is we want you, you know. It helps if you have a producer attached. Even if the producer has really no credits, that way you can defer all the information, you know, the communication to the. I assume you're a writer or a director or both.
Right. Yes. Both. Yeah.
Well, you have to. The only way a movie gets made is you have to have a producer. If you're a writer, you have to have a producer and you have to have a director. So, you know, but you can't go out. No actor that's got any kind of name is going to say yes to you without a director attached. So, you know, even if the director has only done student films, you got to have someone that's appointed as the director and someone that's appointed as a producer. So, get a producer, get a director, and then go out for talent. Then get a casting director. A casting director is not even going to represent the movie if there's no director or no producer. I mean, you have to have script, director, producer, casting director. So you can actually get a director and a producer attached for no money, and then cobble together a little money, get a reputable casting director, and then go after some talent.
Okay. It is mainly just about them being interested in the project, really, right?
Yeah. If you got a super powerful script, your casting director is going to say, hey, man, this is a super powerful script. You know, your casting director that you get is going to have their own reputation on the line. They're not going to go out and try to bother talent that they know or agents or managers of the talent that they know if they don't think the script is really good, you know? Yeah. Not every casting director is going to say yes just because you're giving them $5 grand, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And by the way, I absolutely love Spun. I mean, from the first time I saw it and then seeing it now again, it's like one of the best movies, one of my favorite movies.
Oh, thank you.
On No bullshit.
Yeah, it was fun to watch it on the big screen.
Yes,
thank you.
it is.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's excellent and practical advice, you guys, all you filmmakers. Yes.
All right, what's up? Yeah, this is the first time that I saw Spun, and I mean, Requiem for a Dream is one of my favorite movies as far as content is just in your face, very disturbing. But the edits I love on Requiem and the soundtrack. But this shit, I mean, oh my God, it was sick because I've never seen a movie like this that just moves like that. Yeah. So I was, you know, really excited. I'm glad that I saw this. I was gonna ask about the screenplay, but this guy stole my question. It's all good. So I was just gonna say, what are a couple films that you recommend checking out that really inspired you or some of your possible favorites?
You know, when I first saw Natural Born Killers, that was it. That was the movie that was like, I want to make movies, was when I saw Natural Born Killers, honestly. But, I mean, I love Ordinary People by Robert Redford. That was a movie that I saw when I was pretty young, and I really struck a tone with me for some reason. I really loved that movie. I loved Annie Hall when it came out. I was young, and I really liked it, you know. And but, you know, I mean, did anybody see Neon Demon? Yeah, that movie's. I love that movie, you know. And you know, I mean, I love movies. I mean, if I watch a movie from beginning to end, I can almost cry in every movie. You know, Milo and Otis, I could cry. You know, it's just like any movie. It's just like they're just so magical and beautiful. Really, it's like even the bad movies are. You know, they're still miracles. And so you know, it's there's a lot. You know, there's so many people that help put any movie together that it's like it's somebody's baby, just like a person walking down the street. You know, you don't know the story behind it, and but it's out there, and you know, and someone loves it. So it's something to be said about it.
All right. Yes, green.
Hello. I was just wondering how you managed to keep all those fires going and then try to still like live day-to-day life.
Oh, good question.
with
That's
your
tough,
family.
man. You know, because you know, like Jack Black in The Pick of Destiny. You know, must pay the rent. You know, it's you know, it's. I mean, I made one mistake for a few years where I was just focusing. After I got off drugs, I just transloco, you know. And I kind of realized that just putting all your eggs in one basket is not the way to go. Diversify as much as you can. Always be working on your craft. If you're a cinematographer, you know, be shooting stuff on your own, you know, and building up your portfolio. If you're a writer, write as many different you know, scenarios as you can. Ideas, keep your ideas flowing, and then you'll find yourself gravitating to the things you're most inspired by. As far as having a lot of different things on, you know, going at once and living day to day, you know, it's. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to be able to make a living, you know, as a writer. I'll take writing jobs, you know, every couple months, helping somebody else write something. Doing an adaptation of something, not putting my name on it, putting my name on it. You know, I you know, sometimes I have a lot of stuff stacked up, but a lot of times I'm hustling for jobs, you know. But you know, it's like I mean, I wasted 10 solid years on doing drugs. So, I mean, it's hard for me sometimes to like put that out of my mind, like, you know, where I would be if I hadn't done drugs, you know. But, you know, the truth of it is that I wouldn't be where I'm at now, which is doing just fine and, you know, learning and hopeful for, you know, what my near future brings. And, you know, I always say the worst thing that can happen is that all the scripts that I have done, those are just my son's first movies that he makes.
That's great.
But to answer your question more thoroughly, I mean, I suppose I didn't really answering you. It's not easy, man. It's not easy. I just keep at it, you know, and I just make sure that. And I think I have been asking myself every day, am I doing at least one thing every day that helps propel my legacy of what I want to do? At least one thing. Just do one thing every day. Make it be a phone call, be it a new to-do list, be it write a new scene, a new idea that's going to help propel one of my projects. If I'm doing at least one thing every day, I feel satisfied with that day and that I didn't waste it. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Okay, anybody else have questions in the audience? Yes.
I had a question from Instagram Live.
Great.
From a person at Carer Art, which is, how do you come up with your ideas?
Well, you know, they say write what you know. That's where it kind of began. Now it's just, you know, I just feel, you know, I have a bunch of ideas, things that haven't been done, you know. I guess my ideas, you know, come with talking to other people or just knowing that, hey, this is something that hasn't been done before. You know, I don't have an idea to write a bank robbery movie, but if someone, you know, because there's so many, but if there was a bank robbery movie that had this new thing and then all of a sudden, you know, I mean, I can't really say how I come up with my ideas other than, you know, they just, it's something that I feel hasn't been done, you know, and to give advice to other people, I get asked a lot, like, how do you come up with your ideas? And I get, you know, I would say, be open to originality, you know, and keep your eyes on the newspaper and the news, and then just think about your own life, you know, because every day there's somebody that I know that's going through some wild, crazy shit that actually would make a great movie if it's just written, you know, and you know, and for the people out there that also ask me all the time, how do you write a script? It's like, write the story down on one page. If you can't write the story down on like one page, then it is never going to be written. Somebody has to begin to write the story in one page. I've had people that are, you know, friends or semi-friends of mine or whatever. Will you help me write a script? I got a great idea for a movie. I say, write the story down on one page and show it to me. If it's great, maybe I'll help you. You know, but rarely does that happen. you know, because you know, I can't write it for them, but I can usher them and help them. And then if they, and you know, people help those that help themselves, you know. So if they start to write something and I see that really have a solid idea, that I can help them elaborate on it. But that's to answer your Instagram question. You know, coming up with an idea is like, could be anywhere, but for me, it's basically my own experience mixed with thoughts and notions of originality.
That's great. Yes.
Where I see myself in 20 years? Hopefully alive, having a bit more healthy, and I look forward to seeing my son become a man, and you know, I would like to be recognized as a great artist someday. I would like to be, you know, as someone that got sober and stayed sober. I would like to be recognized as someone that, you know, I would like to recognize myself as being someone that attempted and succeeded at my dreams. And, you know, I mean, to be nominated for an Academy Award or something like that would be amazing, but it's not really my goal. My goal is to make the project, see them happen, and, you know, not have to apologize for being, you know, who I, you know, wish to be. And 20 years, I'll be, you know, grayer. But hopefully, you know, I will succeed with you know, seeing these things through to fruition, and you know, helping my friends and the people around me realize their dreams too. And I mean, so you know, they say giving is as good as receiving. That's a tough one to really understand. But the truth of it is, it's kind of like that even in like sobriety and stuff. So you help other people, it's like it always comes back to you, even in like creative aspects too. You know, because we all know. I mean, several people that I know, once upon a time, they weren't a great artist. Now they're like doing super well, and they're super great, you know. So helping other people realize their dreams always helps you, you know. So, and that's something to always, you know, keep in mind too. Yeah.
Outstanding. All right, any more questions before I wrap this up? I just wanted to say a couple things. All right, I'm going to go ahead and just say, I wanted to say that all the things I know about Will, one of the things that always sticks out from everything I look at is he's just incredibly generous in all that he does, and he shared a lot of that generosity with us today. So please give him a big hand. Thank you, Will.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's really great. And the people online, thanks for checking it out. And yeah, this is real fun experience.
Thank you,
I
Will.
appreciate
it was
it.
fabulous.
Thanks, LA Film School.